batteries you're touching.
That's not all that's touching.
Oh.
Welcome to Poor Man Mods. Today we're going to show you how to relocate your battery.
What kind of battery? Like this one?
No.
This.
No, not a AA.
What about that one?
Close, but not an Xbox battery.
How about this battery?
No, Mark. This battery.
Oh.
This is a car battery that goes in your car, which is what we work on, Mark.
Why are we going to do that?
Well, it's great you should ask that, because not only does it free up space in the engine bay, it makes your life more difficult to do it, and it transfers weight to the rear. So, for example, if this battery weighs 40 pounds, if you take it out of your engine bay, you took 40 pounds out, and if you put it in your rear, you put 40 pounds back there. So really you're changing about 80 pounds of weight, and it's going on the passenger side.
Why?
To compensate for your weight, to make it more balanced.
There's another reason. Do you know?
To make it more balanced.
No, do you ever notice if a car doesn't have a posi rear, the right side tire always spins?
To put traction on that tire.
Yeah.
So you can do this and kitty litter.
Uh-huh.
So I think you might know more than I do about this.
Probably.
I don't know a thing. So a lot of people do this to free up space in their engine bay, like I said, and it transfers weight and makes the car more balanced, because if you weigh 200 pounds and you're moving about 80 pounds to the rear because you're taking 40 out of the front and adding 40 to the rear, that's pretty significant. You're almost balancing out the weight of your fat ass. Almost. But not quite.
I wonder if going to the gym would affect your performance on the track.
Maybe, but that's a lot of work. A lot of work.
But that 30 minutes of the gym could add like maybe, or take away like 0.2 of a second off your track times.
Or you could spend that 30 minutes working on your engine to shave off 0.2 and adding performance parts and tweaking it and adjusting the timer and stuff like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but then...
Or you could spend that time with the track, practicing.
True.
Who cares about being healthy?
Whatever.
I don't.
I do.
I don't.
Alright, let's get to work.
Alright, man.
Okay, the reason why we're relocating the battery is because this intercooler piping is intersecting where the battery would normally be. So in that case, we have to put the battery in the trunk.
Alright, so things you're going to need to put the battery in your trunk is obviously a battery. I don't think I need to show you that. We got new battery terminals, just to have new ones. And we got about 20 feet of wire that we're going to run from the positive post on the battery up to the fuse box and the starter. And I'm not sure about your laws, but at least in Pennsylvania, the battery needs to be in a closed box. So we got a battery box that's, I think it's made for boats or whatever, but it'll work for this car. Or we'll make it work for this car. And then to tie it down and secure it, we have these J-hooks, which we're going to drill a hole in the floor, hook it on the bottom, and then tighten it down with this lovely piece of steel. And that's about all you need. It's pretty simple and straightforward. The only hard part is figuring out where you're going to route the cable. So let's get to it.
Okay, so when you're putting this battery box in, you want it as far back in the car as possible to put as much weight on the rear axle as you can. And like we said earlier, you want it on the right side of the car, but yet you also want to make some room so you can get a hook in there. You don't want it all the way to the side because then you can't get in. So I'm ready to drill my hole, and you can always basically just kind of mark where you want and then put the battery on top of where you're going to drill your hole, and then just drill through the battery box and into the floor. So once you drill both your holes, you're ready to put your little J-hook in.
Alright, so now that we got our second set of holes drilled, because we kind of messed up and didn't have them spaced out far enough, we had to drill a second set of holes. But to get these J-hooks in, all you have to do, push it in, and then pull up. And then you get your battery box, put it in the hole. You always need to get it in the hole. Now your box is in, and now this thing's ready for a battery. Boom! And now we need to make a tie down for this, which I'm just going to use a plate of steel and bolt it on there. All right, so this is the leftover metal that we had for making the trans mount for this. This hole was already there, but we drilled these two holes in there, and this is going to be our battery tie down. So we put it on like so, and then we take the butterfly nuts that were supplied with it, with the J-hooks.
That tie down isn't going to move around so it won't touch the terminals, right? Oh, and you have to take a battery out.
I had to take the battery out to get the butterfly screw. Alright, so we got the battery tie down on. This thing is pretty secure. It's not really going anywhere. So now we have to wire it into the car, which I hate wiring. Okay, so this is Poor Man Mods, and we decided just to reuse the factory ground wire. Now I know this does ground to the engine. We are going to put another ground wire from the engine to the chassis, but all we have to do for this one is just ground the battery to the chassis back here, and I'll make a nice solid connection. So this is free. We didn't have to pay for this. And this actually goes on the side like this, and this lid has a little gap to go over the wires, just like that. So there's no issues with that, but I don't think it needs a lid, so we're just going to do that. So we're using this spot for our ground, but really you can use any spot that you can bolt it to. We just decided to use this one. We really could use anything else. And plus, this cable will be covered by a panel right here, so it won't look as ugly, but looks don't really matter because race car. Okay, so we got the positive cable ready to hook up. We're not going to connect it because obviously that wouldn't be too smart since the other end isn't connected yet. But we got it ran, and just like the intercooler, probably the most difficult part or the longest part about this whole process is just finding out exactly where you want to route the wire. So I'm going to show you where we ran this. We ran it from the battery around the driver's side rear, and then all the way up the driver's side underneath the rear panel, and then we went down underneath like the door sill on the driver's side, and then up through a grommet that goes into the engine bay. We ran that just like we did in the two-step video on the Spec V, and then we're going to connect that to the starter and that fuse box. Alright, now that we got this wire ran to where we want it to be, we're going to put the interior back together and then pull the rest of the slack out so we get it to the exact length that we want. And then once we get everything all said and done, then we'll finally hook it up. Okay, so we got the battery cable all the way up here, and this is what we have going on up here. This is the wire that goes to the starter. This came off of the engine when I purchased it, so it came like this. And then this is the wire that goes to the fuse box. This is how it was before I got it. So what we're going to do, we're going to cut these two and put them together and put it in this connector, and then put it right in here, and it'll be connected, and then we're going to wrap in electrical tape and make it all insulated, and then it'll be good to go. And for those of you who may be skeptical on the size of wire that we're using, as you can see, the wire that goes to the starter and the one that we're using are basically the exact same size. So don't worry, this isn't going to catch on fire and melt. This wire will do just fine. People use it to run 220 in houses and stuff, so it'll be just fine, I promise. Alright, so we relocated the battery to the rear. We got it all hooked up in the front. Now let's see if it works. There you go, it works. But let's see if the car starts. No. We got a lot more work to do to get this thing running. Next time on Poor Man Mods, you're going to see us lower a Trans Am, and then after that, we're going to be putting a fuel pump in this thing. So, we'll see you next time.